Hello, guys and gals. Here we are for another live with Cheeky Joe, and we are going to talk about being silenced and having the courage to no longer be silenced. So, this was a little bit inspired by a number of things, uh, varying from very personal stuff to, I suppose, global stuff, because all of us are somehow, I suppose all of us are somehow influenced by the ongoing war between the Ukraine and Russia. And well, I don't know about you, but besides that, I feel it's terrible that they have to deal with, well, let's put it this way. The Russian people, they are not allowed to speak out because if they do, they can be sentenced with a 15-year sentence in jail. And of
Uh,
course, targets are hit from the people who live in the Ukraine. So when we talk about being silenced, I don't know how much more people can be silenced. Well, they have an ally. And maybe I'm saying things now which are horrible and I shouldn't be saying that. But you also know about Hong Kong and, of course, about China. Hong Kong, well, you know this, Joe. They were reigned by the English Queen, and then she had to give up,
yeah,
uh, agree to that she would give up the reign. And those people are also protesting about it, the freedom of speech. And there are many, there are more countries like this, but you know, attacking a country because they want to be part of the NATO and they want to be safe for a third world war, and then saying, but back in the days, this was part of Russia, and this was part of Russia, and this was part of Russia too. Yeah, I don't know. So those are the broad things, and hopefully we might get some speakers on here, but I don't know. As you may know, the the connection is really horrible right now with the Ukraine.
yeah,
They shut it down, I believe.
yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want to add something to this before we go to the more personal stuff?
No, it's true what you're saying though about this Ukraine and Russia. It's just so sad to see what it actually is going on out there, and they can't speak. They can't even flee Ukraine because they're literally shooting them in their
Yeah.
cars, and they should be able to speak out. They have every right. Everybody's got a right to speak out. So, and imprisoning them for 15 years because they want to speak out against this. And the same as like the Russian people as well. A lot of the people there do not want this because their families are in Ukraine. So they're basically killing their own people.
Yeah.
And it's really sad. And
Yeah.
they're
And
even doing it, but they've even been banned from doing their own marches out there. They've been nicking them or shooting at them, their own people, if they want to voice out their own opinions, which is really bad. It's just not good enough,
yeah.
especially in this day and age. It shouldn't be happening all
Well,
because of NATO. It's
I mean,
it's ludicrous.
we're past World War II a long time ago, and
Yeah,
we're bang, and we're back at it. It's unbelievable. And I mean, I remember, growing up, of course, Russia was big. USSR was huge.
well, yeah, it basically owned practically everything of that side. Like, then
Yeah,
they all sort of started to split up, like little places like Croatia, and all these little places as
Czechoslovakia,
well.
Latvia.
Yeah. So they all sort of become their own, and it's been like that for a while now. And I don't understand why he has to do this and why he wants to do this. And yet he's one of the most richest, powerful men in the world. He is. And
Well,
I just,
maybe that's why.
Yeah, he's greedy. He's a dictator. He thinks he's another Hitler. This is the problem. And look at what happened to Hitler in the end. He never got what he wanted. So, you know, let's just hope that this does come to an end quite soon, because so much is being destroyed.
Yeah.
Homes, families torn apart, living underground because they've got nowhere to go, and all
Do,
those poor children
do you
having
remember?
to live with this fear. It's
Yeah.
just not fair.
Yeah, when you see about the birth clinics now being in a cellar in the basement,
Mm,
oh, it's. But do you remember that we had East and West Germany
yeah.
with the wall from Pink Floyd, of
Mm,
course, which was dedicated to tearing down the wall
yeah.
between East and West Germany, and all those people. I mean, families were literally divided by that wall, and if they tried to
Mm,
flee from East Germany to West Germany, they got shot at.
yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, and a totally different regime. And you know, I guess that I don't know if you know the band Ramstein. Have you heard
No.
of them? Met Du hast und nou ja, they have a lot of songs, including
No.
and actually their name from Ramstein comes from the airport Ramstein.
All right.
It's a little trivia. Anyway, um, yeah, they managed to escape at some point. Well, the wall came down. Let's put it that.
Mm,
And of course, they because they were silenced and uh, there was only little allowed. They found one another in music, and they are still writing very critical songs about criminals doing certain things. So they talk, for instance, about um, cannibalism. I'm just
yeah.
people who are literally being silenced. Das Mauer is a song which is about, okay, here's a lady, she has a pretty house, she has a wonderful garden. There's only one problem. He has built her that house, but that house has been built around her and she cemented with her foot in a block of cement. No clothes, no nothing. And so it's a very sad song. If you don't know what the song is about, you're thinking, oh, wonderful song. And that's the power of Rammstein. But most
Mm,
people, of course, do not speak German, so they don't understand what they are saying. So, yeah, that's a hell of an entrance, I suppose, starting
mm,
like that. But I mean, wow, it's. And I mean, of course, everyone notices what's happening. I mean, gasoline prices are up through the roof. Um, we already were experiencing problems when it came to gas as in electricity. So not,
yeah.
yeah,
Extortionate. Oh my
yeah,
lord. Prices are, oh, it's terrible here. It's risen so much. And it's a joke, especially our gas bills. They've added like £500 on top a year. It's
yeah,
ridiculous. And you've got people like obviously me and people who cannot afford things, luxuries like that, because everything's just gone up in price. Unless you've like got a really steady income or anything, then otherwise it's just a lot of places now, the poor are getting poorer and the richer are just going to get richer.
yeah,
And the likes of us, like me, and people I know and areas and stuff, they're going to suffer. We're the ones that are going to suffer with all this.
yes,
And many people are going to struggle to keep a roof over their head.
yeah. And
And it's
and
fair.
why? And I mean, I understand that he's got this idea that Russia needs to be the USSR again, but still, it's so sad that it's like you said, families are being destroyed,
Mm.
um, children.
Children are being posted to countries without their parents.
Yes,
And that's just not fair. we shouldn't be doing that in this day and age. We had that in the Second World War and the First World War, but this shouldn't be happening now. This
Yeah,
shouldn't be going on.
yeah,
Those poor children being separated, the fear. The majority of them are going to end up with PTSD because the trauma of it all and the
yeah,
trauma of listening to bombs. And because I remember, like, with my granddad, because he was in a war, and the stuff he used to tell me and that, and I used to think, my Lord, you know what I mean? And obviously he had all the Vietnam Wars and all the, and like people suffering with that. So these children are such young ages, they shouldn't have to be dealing with this. It's
yeah.
just not.
There are already little clips on there.
Mhm. Yeah, I've seen
Like,
loads of on our news articles with
yeah,
children.
with no food, no electricity, no water. They're
No,
starving. And when you talk about World War II, that was actually what was happening in the Netherlands. We didn't have food at
no. I had
all.
food. We had food ration books in our
Yeah,
country. Everybody
people.
had a ration book. You were only allowed so much, you know. Even children had to go, babies had to go without milk. You had to make it last, so they had to feed them with water or porridge, you know, just to thicken it up, just to give them that supplement, because you're only allowed a certain amount of things a week,
Yeah,
and basically you were starving, you
yeah.
know.
Tools were made of wooden um, pixels. Well, it was like a flat wooden piece of wood. You know what?
Yeah,
Well, you know all those kind of things. So no rubber soles, just a piece of wood, and that was your
yeah,
shear. They tied it together with
yeah.
something.
And
Probably.
all the European countries, we all suffered. I mean, the likes of America and Africa, they were fine because they wasn't in the midst of it. They were carrying
Well,
on as normal in their countries.
us together with the British people, we were
Yeah.
safe. Canadians, the Americans, British. So that was good. That was good. And yeah. So I just wanted to start with it because we may have some people come on. I don't know if it's going to work. Um, but this is of course a much broader topic. So this is um, to start with, and then of course we have it on a more personal scale. Before we go on any personal level, I just want to say I'm a little bit stuffy today, as you may hear. And that's because, after 2 years, I caught Corona too. I mean, I was in LA
You
when,
caught it off me. I breathed it to you
yeah,
on video call.
yeah, for those who don't know, about a week ago, a week and a half ago in the Netherlands, they let go of basically all the Corona rules.
Yeah,
So,
here too. Yeah.
yeah, we don't have to wear any facial mask. Of course, we can. That's not the biggest issue, but they let go of keeping distance between people too. And I'm never comfortable when it comes to being close to people because I don't have
No.
ability, so I might fall down. So what happened was I decided, someone, a friend said, okay, do you want to pick me up? Yeah, sure, I'm going to pick you up. I dropped them off, picked them up. And in between, I had to call him here. And before that, I had dinner at his place, and I helped him shoot a video so he could for a casting agency. So he's a model, and so we went to this place, and it's a very famous square actually in The Hague. It's called literally Square Plein, and that's where where everything when the government is well, that's where the government is positioned. It's all in that same area. So I was like, okay, no, I can park there easily. So let's go and do it and get a bite to eat. So at first I walked in and I was already like, oh my God, this is busy. So it was cool. I posted all these things on Instagram, all these pictures and little videos. And, for the time being, we will be close to one another. And then, of course, there was some distance again. Also, I knew he had already had COVID last year, so well, nowadays that doesn't say anything. That's what we've noticed. Then so we had a bite to eat, and we sat in a half rounded booth, and it was at first like, okay, we're close to one another because of the music. We were directly located under a speaker, but it didn't matter where you would sit. Everywhere you would sit underneath a speaker, so it was like a box. So that made a lot of noise. So at some point, of course, we were a little bit more apart, and then there were other people next to us, and then we were in between people. So it was like I said, Corona isn't over yet. And so, but then we went to a gay bar. For the record, I am not gay. I'm not lesbian. I'm not bisexual, because a lot of people think I am. So I'm just going to state it right here, right now. Um, but so we went there, and I had an immense fun time. Great music, 80s, 90s. Lots of people our age, which was also pretty cool. I experienced things I'd never seen before. Girls blinking their eyes at me, asking about hickeys. Is my buff or a fashion statement? I'm not wearing it right now, but normally I've got. It looks like a collar, but it's this. It's like a scarf, so it's a tube, and it goes all the way around here, which is so I won't get a cold or anything. So it was really a lot of fun. I had a blast. I sat on a bar stool, and I was literally like 3 feet, 4 feet from the door, which was constantly opening, closing. Next to me was a table, and on the other side of the table, someone was sitting. And since I was sitting and everybody was dancing on the dance floor, there was even distance between me and those people. And I said to my friend, is this a wise thing? Corona? He said, well, you're next to the door. And well, I should have left in time. I said, I need to go back in time. And he said, can we stay? So we stayed. Well, I believe it's kind of a similar story that you experienced, right? When you contracted COVID?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Went out to a bar or pub. We call them pubs here. And for my friend's birthday, and yeah, we was like in a pub, dancing and drinking, talking to people. And then 2 days later, start feeling rough, and yay, you've got COVID. It's like, well, because I went out, but
Ding.
that's the second time I've had it though. I've had it twice now. So,
Did
but
you
this
have
time,
when your husband had it?
yeah.
Oh,
But I had it very, very mild. But this time was awful. Oh, never felt so rough in my life. That was absolutely awful. I felt really, really, really horrible. Oh my God, my body, my head, my voice, my throat, my eyes, everything. And I had really bad trouble breathing, which I've never suffered with problems with breathing. And having to go to hospital a few times too, and that, and it was just really horrible. It was, I just really, really suffered with it. But I'm slowly getting a lot better now. I still get little bouts of where my breathing goes a bit shallow, but obviously I suppose it's a long-term effect, isn't it? It's, as they call it, long
Yeah.
COVID. It can last a long while. Some people it doesn't,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just
Something.
horrible. And people still suffering bad with it, and I just don't get it why, because all the European countries are just like, yeah, whatever, we'll carry on. But the likes of like America and all that, they're all still doing their social distancing, they're all wearing their masks still, majority of them.
Yes, their lockdown was lifted before ours was, but
Yeah,
Well, I think they're still wearing facial
They're
masks.
still wearing facial masks because that I
Well,
know by someone put some pictures up of PD filming, and they've all got their masks on. They have to wear them when they're not actually
yeah,
filming. They're made to wear them, which I think it should still be like that. It should still be like that here too, because it's still spreading. You still got the vulnerable people out there, the old people. You've got pregnant women, and you still don't know what effects that can cause. You know what I mean? It can still kill people, but they
yeah,
just,
so
you
true.
know, yeah,
So Terry is saying can't join tonight, but wanted to stop by and say have a great evening, ladies. And he has had it bad too, and he didn't have COVID. So I'm not sure if he went to the official authorities to get tested, because I did a home test twice, negative,
mm,
and that's when I decided to do an official one. And
yeah. Well, I did 4 home tests, and they all come back positive straight away. The first 2 days, it never. It wasn't till the Wednesday when I came back on the Sunday from my weekend away. So then, obviously, it come up. It's like positive. I was like, oh, here we go. And then I did a PCR test and straight away. And obviously, that's what stopped me from going to see my mum before she passed
yeah,
away,
yeah,
because I'd recently contacted it, and Belgium were like, no, sorry, you can't enter the country. You have to wait at least 6 weeks. So that's why I missed my mum and her funeral.
yeah.
So I
It's horrible.
was
And
pretty angry with myself that I went out that weekend, because if I hadn't have gone out that weekend, I probably would have been there. I would have been able to go. But
you didn't know this was going to happen.
no, that's right. I know. Um,
And I mean, the thing was, you were going to get your booster shot, and you couldn't.
mm, no.
I
But,
have had my booster shot, so that's my. Well, I guess that's what's saving me from getting it really horrible. Then again, I'm used to these kinds of things, not the sneezing nonstop. Although when I don't take my nasal spray, I do sneeze all the time, and I don't.
yeah,
But the source, not the sore, the dry throat, that's what's getting to me most. So I might
mm,
go away. That's why I've got this still. So people are thinking, why is she eating on camera on the live? Well, that's why.
any
So
excuse.
yeah, and that's also why I'm wearing my glasses. I'm not going to put in my contacts just for a few hours just because I'm on the live. So just
No.
I'm on a live. I managed to say. But here we are, and um, so yeah, um, I wanted to add something to the speaking out and being silent, which has to do with courage. So you know this probably by now. A lot of people who are
Oh,
part of Evan Carmichael's movement makers, we get this word of the month. And it's a shame that Terry actually only said goodbye for a moment, because he came up with the word courage. Actually, we talked about it last Monday when I was live with Michael. You heard it. Um,
yeah,
so I wrote a little something down, which is it takes courage to reflect on what you're about to do, and it takes courage to speak out. And in
yeah,
addition, don't silence others. Think before you speak and act. Be respectful and be aware
yeah.
of consequences.
That's
So,
right.
shall I pass it on to you?
Which part?
Well, for instance, what I said. Let's start with the one most people don't think about. I think that people do know the importance to speak out, which
Mm,
for a lot of people is really hard. Once you get turned down, it's people often think like, okay, you know, let's leave it. They're not going to listen anyway because they didn't before. So
Yeah.
easily discouraged when it comes to speaking out. And so speaking up is one thing, but speaking out, actually saying you don't agree with someone and having a different
Yeah.
opinion, that's all
Yeah.
different.
Which I had the other day. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then there's the other side, which is people before you start doing something. And that's why I said think before you speak and act, because usually it's not only about what you're saying, but also maybe something you're writing down, something you're doing. So it's most of the time it's part of something bigger, and it takes courage to reflect. And I've noticed that only few people are actually capable of really reflecting about what they're saying. And I had to learn it because I'm a licensed therapist, and of course I'm a coach too. So then I had to do it all over again, and
Yeah.
counselor, then I had to do it all over again. I'm a trainer, so for decades, so so we can go on and on and on and on. So multiple times I had to learn to think about, okay, what is it I've done, what I've said, do people agree with me or not? And even then, especially when it comes to personal stuff, it's not the easiest thing to do, to reflect. And that's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it takes courage to reflect on what you're about to do. And that's the thing. You want to think before you act, think before you start to do something.
Do, yeah.
Yeah. So, so I can come up with a number of um, examples. Do you want to?
Uh, well, I had an example from the other day, obviously, um, uh, just by basically correcting somebody in a nice way that, and this person just literally jumps down my throat over something really trivial, but in a way where it really brings you down and makes you feel awful. And
Worthless?
yeah, and I
And
was in such a vulnerable state at the time as well, which made it even worse because normally things like that, I never let things bother me, never do, never do. But at that specific time, it was just horrible. I felt like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? And I didn't do anything wrong. But what this person said to me was it wasn't like nasty, but it was put in a way to make you look like you're little, you're stupid, things like that. And it's like, I don't need this, and because of my state of mind, it really did affect me. And it, as you know, it affected me in a way that it really did make me feel ill. I was like, it was playing on my mind. Um, and I just kept thinking, you know what? In the end, I'm not going to let people treat me like this anymore. I thought, no, I'm not gonna have that no more. No one's going to put me down like that and talk to me that way, because I don't deserve it. I didn't do anything wrong. If I'd been guilty of something that I'd said, then fair enough. But I wasn't. It was just a simple
yeah, to
question
give you just
answer.
a little bit of context, someone
Yeah.
asked the question,
And
someone else had answered. Uh,
mm,
I think it's then and then you gave basically the context. Oh, it was from. So you
certain thing, yeah.
provide with
And
information they
it
need.
was like, oh my God, it was just so like, it's just weird. I just don't understand why this person did it, why they had to do it, knowing what was happening that day and everything. And it was like, why would you do that to somebody, knocking their confidence even more so, knowing what I was going through? As I said, normally things like that ever affect me, but it really did. It really did affect me. And
Yeah,
that's when I said to you, didn't I? I said I was thinking all night, and then I did that post, and I was like, do you know what? and I put down my faults and that. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to let you do this to me no more. I'm going to stand my ground. I'm not going to have people put me down like that anymore, because I've had it done to me so many times. And it's got to a point now where I'm thinking, no, I've got to stop letting people do that to me. I
Yeah.
can't keep letting them do it to me,
Yeah.
because it plays with my mental health and it gives me issues, and I don't need it. I've had it in the past where, and I just don't want this anymore. I want to be me and start learning to stand up to people and not be afraid to back down.
Yeah. I
I
can't say
really need to.
I'm immensely proud how quickly you got up, because I know it was stopping you in your tracks.
Mm.
Posting daily, and and you were on a, you were about to say, I'm not going to post anything anymore, because you
Yeah, it was. Did
is it
get to
her?
that point.
Because you said the only thing that right now is giving me joy is
Mm.
posting, you know
Yeah.
editing and posting, writing down what my feelings are, and then someone takes advantage of it. So we talked
Mm.
of course a lot about it, and what I basically said to you, and I've said it to a lot of people, is this wasn't about you. I mean, most certainly when you're only adding information, someone says, from when is this? The other says, I don't know, I think. And then you say, oh, it's from, that's only adding information.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. It's.
yeah, it's helping one another out. So when
Mhm.
someone goes, flies off the handle, especially attacking you,
Mm.
saying like, "Oh, I won't blame you because you're in a vulnerable state." No, no, that's not correct.
No,
No,
exactly.
it doesn't have anything to do with your state of mind. The question is, why did the person feel attacked in the first place?
Mm.
And that's when it comes to reflection, and that's why I said it takes courage to reflect on what you've done. Well, I do understand that you got sort of an apology, so but it did affect you. The good
It
thing
did.
is that I do believe that you came out stronger than you went in as a
Yeah,
result.
definitely. Definitely. I really felt I've thought about it so much and the things you was telling me and that, and I thought, you know what? No, I need to put my foot down now and stand up and not let people do this to me anymore, because it's not right. I shouldn't have to put up with it. Even my kids were like, she had no right. You've got every right to stand your ground because you did nothing wrong.
No,
Exact same as
you were
you
helping out,
said it. Mm,
and some
and that's when I messaged her back and said, I'm not dealing with it anymore, blah, blah, blah. And that's when she sort of sent me a so-called apology. Not
yeah.
really call it apology, but, and I just, I don't know. I just don't understand some people. I really don't. But obviously she's got insecurities herself. She can't stand the fact that I corrected her in one thing, because obviously she's one of them that doesn't take lightly to people correcting her if she's wrong. And she's obviously got issues herself that needs to be dealt with, but obviously, she's stuck behind a computer because, as they call them, keyboard warriors, they can say
Yeah.
things because you're not going to know who they really are.
Yeah.
So,
And that's
you know,
that's of course the thing when you look at this day and age. And let's get to bullying for a second here. So when we were growing up, bullying was being done outside in the streets and on the
yeah,
ground at school. It was in school. I mean, I grew up and I was bullied a lot. I mean, it started out when I was still a little kid. And don't even believe that it had anything to do with my hair color or my eye color. I guess I was a very protected child. I didn't go to daycare. I had an older brother and sister. And my mom said that apparently I went to kindergarten already when I was 3 years old. So I went there together with my sister. but it's the ones that I grew up with. I had this card from my great aunt, and well, she was adorable, you know. She was the one you really see when you think about the old Dutch ladies. You know, she had her hair like this in a bun, you know, her gray
Mm.
hair, and we would go to her house, and those were literally those houses which were like whether it was in a tulip kind of shape, or we have those houses near the they're
They're
near
like
the house.
thatched roofs, we call
Yeah,
them.
they have all some kinds. Some are square, some are triangular shaped, some are more round, and that's typical Dutch. And when it comes to the Netherlands, a lot of houses have been bombarded during World War II. So especially when you go to Rotterdam, but also part of The Hague, it's all been mowed down because of the bombing, which brings us back
Mm.
to the beginning of what we were talking about, what's happening in the Ukraine. But getting back for a sec to the kind of houses and who she was, I remember that it was so amazing to stroll around in her house. She had a rocking chair and everything, and you know, all these pieces of well, we could knit there, we could do everything we wanted. She had buttons, she had everything stashed, and you could look everywhere, and it was just I don't know, apparently we had carte blanche to do whatever we wanted. But then again, we didn't do all those things that we shouldn't do. Anyway, she'd written me a card because that's who she was. She was called my Aunt Jeannie, Tante Sjaan in Dutch. And she, yeah, well, she written me this card. I'd taken it proudly to kindergarten, and there they went. Next one. I think that was the end of the story, and I think that was the beginning of me turning inwards and not
Mm.
wanting to interact with other kids, because what was the use? Teachers, I understood. You could ask teachers about stuff, but you know, I was good playing by myself. Whether it was, oh, there's Sen. Sen, come join us. Come join us for a sec. We're talking about courage, about speaking out, the courage to reflect as well, and we love your opinion. And we're talking for a sec also about what's happening in the Ukraine, because people are being silenced there as well. So at the moment we're talking about the bullying, and uh, Joe experienced some bullying online just recently. Speaking out loud and proud, yes, exactly. But not everybody feels proud when they speak out, and hardly ever do they do it loud. So, and I had to learn that too, you know, when I would say something, it was like, of course, no one would hear it, no one would understand it. So loud, no, not so much. Proud, not at all. You know, I was scared to say anything because of the whole bullying thing and all that stuff, and not being believed and taken seriously either. I mean, you know, I've told you, Joe, and a couple of other people too. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, I got strangled at the schoolyard with when I was wearing a tie, not a tie, when it's called a scarf. So one kid was on the one end and the other kid was on the other end, and you know, I basically choked. I had a bruised, um, oh my God, such an
Esophagus.
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 Thank you. So um, yeah, so that has that had impacted me. So what is Sen saying? I can't come in. I have to get ready for my show in 10 minutes. Congrats on what you guys are doing. Keep speaking out. Well, thank you, Sen. That's very much
Thank you, Sven. Has he
so.
got a show?
Yeah, it used to be way earlier, but he apparently he moved it. So I'm not sure what time it is. Anyway, so the bullying was done face to face, and of course, a lot of teachers missed it. And when we talk about nowadays, Still, a lot of kids are. Thank you, Sin. I'll keep going. Lots of kids are still being bullied nowadays, but they do pay more attention to it, and I'm so happy that there are special programs, anti-bullying
Yeah,
for children. And my one word is inclusion, which of course has to do with bullying as well. It has to do with people who are a little bit different, whether because of mental, um, well, you could say mentally challenged because their IQ is a little bit lower. You could also talk about hormonal stuff. Something in the brain just working a little bit differently, and you can be smart as but still,
yeah,
need that structure, have that focus, not wanting to interact with people because the whole world is literally, coming in, and you hear everything and you see everything. So all you want to do is shut off from the world and not keep, not experiencing it at all. And people don't understand that. And of course, I've got my show on Mondays with Michael from Wheels and Warriors, and that's when we talk about being a little bit differently. You know, uh, I've had a lot of experience when it comes to walking with crutches for 7 years. And now I'm using a brace nowadays, so that's a little bit easier. But I always, and you don't know this, but a lot of people, when they walk outside with me, they go like, "Whew," and I'm like, hey, hang on, because I go, like this. I go
a
slow.
snail.
Yeah, I had a snail space because I have to keep my balance. And usually, when I start walking, I need to get into the movement, which I've always known, but it's because of what has happened with my ankle, my knee, and not having been able to move properly for 7 years. Of course, that has affected me. And other than that, before that time, I've started to build up all these intolerances for food, some which are basically pretty common. And it's funny because someone pointed out that there's actually, I think it's a football or baseball player. I'm going to look it up for a second. And he has a certain diet which is anti-inflammatory. And I don't know. I looked it up. Not sure if I can find it really quickly. So let's see. It's always nice to do this during a live. Looking things up. That should be here. Well, I'll probably see it in a little bit. Anyway, um, someone pointed this guy out to me, and because I said, I'm, hang on,
Bless
only two,
you.
only two. And
Bless you.
it was 3 times the sun is going to shine tomorrow. Well, the sun was going to shine anyway tomorrow, so. um, anyway, so this guy, um, he has certain kind of diet, I think it is. And he says it's about leaving out the carbs, but also the vegetables, the nightshade vegetables.
Yeah.
Those are the peppers, tomatoes, onions. Basically, what I can eat are the green vegetables, which he also promotes. And of course, so when I eat a lot of carbs, that's when I gain a lot of weight. So I guess a couple of decades ago, I learned that carbs, although I can appreciate it, they're not the best for me. Um,
No.
and when it comes to vegetables, they either hurt my skin or I get heartburn or whatever it is. And it was funny to actually see that there was someone who had actually come up with this diet, which was anti-inflammatory. So he also cut out all the soy. So I do replace soy nowadays also with almond and all that other stuff. So it's not just soy, so it's also almond, coconut, all that stuff. Um, And then it was like, oh, okay, so I'm not the only one out there. Only I don't know. I don't believe that it started with allergies on his side. But it does make it a little bit easier when there are people out there experiencing it. And even then, I'm so used to telling people, okay, I can eat this, that, and the other, but not this. So there's even a regular restaurant I go to, and they know about my allergies. So just
Mhm.
recently put something on my plate, which was unexpected. So I looked at them and I said, "What's in there?" And the first thing, I have no clue what it is. It looks like an onion, and it's red, but it's like we call it beta, um,
Beetroot.
beetroot. Thank you. Um, so the beetroot I love. Not sure if it's healthy, but for me,
Yeah,
um,
it is. It is good. It's very
yeah,
good.
good too. And apples are good too, and still I can't eat them. You know. um, but they had put cream in there. And so, end of story. So she said to me, "Yeah, I'm going to check with the chef what's in there." And then she came back and she took those little jars and she lifted them off my plate. And then, I, I guess, I had to learn to speak out even when I didn't want to. And sometimes, um, what is called live henshu lemons instead of. You should know those expressions. You're the English one.
What expressions?
Yeah, live henshu lemons instead of
Who?
live henshu lemons. So it
I've
gives you
never heard of that.
power. Is it American? Don't tell me. Live henshu.
Probably American.
Yeah, live henshu lemons. Yeah, that's here. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Is that? Is that? It's not British. It's American.
I've never heard of it.
This is, so it's a proverbial phrase used to encourage, your courage, yes, to encourage optimism and a positive can do attitude in the face of adversity or misfortune. Lemons suggest sourness or difficulty in life. Making lemonade is turning them into something positive or desirable, usually something sweet too.
It could be one, but I've never heard of it, so I'm
Well,
not
I
sure.
noticed that, and this is a funny thing. Um, when we grew up and going to school, we of course got taught British English. So I usually am pronouncing things more the American way nowadays. Of course, with a thick Dutch accent, although I try to diminish that. uh, but regardless, what we were listening to wasn't British English. I mean, there was this satire. What was it? With the dolls, where they would, you would have Thatcher in those dolls, and they would have those shows. Um, I'm just seeing it literally in front of me, and it was so immensely funny. Um, I'll come back to it. Doesn't matter. Anyway, but those were one of the few. I mean, British humor is typical sense of humor, and,
Mm.
and then there were the American shows, and we were basically fed with. Um,
The Americans, a lot of the time, they do not understand the British sense of humour.
no, I totally get it. And now I want to know what it is. Um, and it was so much fun. You just talk on spitting image. There it is. The puppet.
You
You do
got
have
it.
no spitting image.
Oh, spitting image. Yes, that's English. Yeah.
Yeah, the puppet satire.
Mm.
Satire, satire. that captured Setser's some words are so hard to pronounce. Now we had to learn all those words. They gave us a sweet to put in the front of our mouth.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking a little bit better about it. You know, the difference between that and that. So I've been practicing. Yes, I have. Yeah, but that was that, you know, and it wasn't until I got to talk a lot with you lately. I mean, there's a difference in spelling. I know that you drive, hear me say, you drive on the wrong side of the road.
We're always back to front in England.
Yeah. Not us, you. Hear me say, this is funny. Because, of course, why should you be wrong in your vision? We are wrong. We are driving on the wrong side, right?
But every other country is the same. It's only us and a few others that actually drive on that side of the road.
Which were part of Britain, like Australia, British. You know, all the men and women who were prisoners were sent there. So yeah, it's you can straight away say, oh, that's related to England some way. You know, when they drive on the other side of the road. But it's a good thing, and I know I'm talking a lot, and if you don't want me to be talking all the time, just say it. I'm actually kind of surprised that I am. I guess I've been too quiet today. So Terry was saying something about perspective. We like perspective, you and I, because we have a preference for a certain actor, especially you. Well, me too. Let's be honest. And what I like
not as bad as me though.
No, that's true. That's true. But what I like about what he's doing is, if you see him on the show, he's a sergeant in the Chicago PD. Then he's the bad guy, or basically nowadays we know he's the good guy, but he's doing bad things for the right reasons.
He's always been a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, he also likes to threaten people and all that.
Yeah, he did, but they were bad people anyway. So
yeah, so doing the right things for the wrong things for the right reason. I said the right things for the right reasons. No, he was doing the wrong things for the right reasons. And you know, I remember when I started in Chicago Fire, at first I was like, who's that guy? You know, threatening all the other people. And then I got to see an interview by him. And he's the total opposite in daily life. You know, he never.
Oh, he is. He's Jason is totally opposite to Hank. He's totally like just. Some ways they're alike, but majority of it they are sort of really different. Jason is just so down to earth and soft heart.
I like about it is when you look at Sergeant Hank Voigt, he's always, of course, at times he does smile. When he's
very rare.
Or when he's really fond of someone, or when there's a kid at play, then he will smile. And but when there's not, he usually, you know, there's a lot of responsibility that he has to consider. And but when you look at the interviews, and I was surprised because I wanted to know, is this guy the same way in, you know, in normal life as he is on stage? And of course, you never know what a person is in normal life. I mean, we are here on this live and we are presenting ourselves a certain way. And well, in this case, I'm wearing my glasses, which I normally are not. And people know when I'm wearing glasses, there's a reason for it. I hardly ever do it unless there's very good reason. Is that the cat?
No, it's me. I just kicked me the right thing, because my phone's attached to it, because it's got a thing that hooks out on the phone. And I just put my foot and just kicked it, so it looked like I was going like that.
You were becoming excited. So, anyway, so when it comes to perspective, I was like, okay, so who's this guy? And then, of course, that's how I came up with the word inclusion. There is Mary. Yes, I was hoping Mary was.
Mary!
Come in, please. We love Mary. Mary's got this amazing smile. So when you talk
She's
about,
lovely. I love Mary.
yeah,
She's such a lovely lady.
yeah. So we need you on here, even if it's just for 1 minute. We need you here, Mary. And I know she's sending us lots of hugs. And I know it's probably a little bit crowded over there, as in.
Yeah, because she has all them children. It's
Yeah.
difficult.
But we love to see your smile. And now we're talking about you and how amazing your smile is. And you know, this topic is about courage and speaking out and the capability to reflect. Yeah, I already said there's probably a lot of chaos on your side. I know children, all that stuff. So, but you know, still, you have this most amazing smile. Just saying. You agree, Joe, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful lady. I love her. I love Mary.
So when Terry was talking about perspective, so he wants that to be next month's theme, I was like, yeah, it's perspective. I know that, you know, seeing things from different angles. And I use it actually a lot in the way I describe things. And a lot of people have thought for a long time that when I was talking to them, that I on purpose was saying the opposite thing so that I didn't agree with them. And I tried to explain to them, listen, what I'm doing is I'm trying to explain why someone reacts the way he or she does. So when you were experiencing being put down and you said, I don't understand it, that's the first thing I did was trying to explain, like, but this has nothing to do with you. And then when we talked on, we heard that when she was being corrected, she would fly off the handle too. And she likes to correct other people as well. So that you know, when you just have to look at people's behavior in order to figure out what it is they're doing. Yeah, I've got COVID, Mary. Believe it or not, after 2 years. You know, I dodged it for 2 years, and now I've got it. And they say everybody's going to have COVID at some point. Well, I guess they're right. You know, I've been tested like 15 times or 14 times and never had it. But now, just because the rules are no longer there over here, and we are all walking side by side. Sorry. You are tired.
Who, me?
Yeah, you are.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm for a second. I'm focusing on you instead of rambling on because that's what I'm really good at. But going back to perspective, um, yeah, it was nice to actually hear people say that they also saw both sides of people, and that's how they want to portray them. I was like, finally, someone who understands it. So that was kind of cool. And, you know, especially dealing with people who do not always understand other people because of the way they experience the world. Real challenge, more of personal responsibility and doing our best. Yeah, that's true. Um, you know, they usually don't understand what's going on, and that's why I have to explain to them, like, okay, this is why people are doing the things they do, and this is what you're supposed to do when it comes to the norm. But we're not always talking about the norm, we're talking about you as a person. So when we're talking about you, of course, and you said I don't understand it, there's one thing I kept repeating: because they can.
Mm.
And I guess that's also when it comes to guys like Putin or whoever, or the one who bullied you. And then we get to the cyberbullying.
Yeah.
It's because they can. And I mean, the cyberbullying, you know about that all too well yourself. I think we already spoke about
Yeah.
it, right? Was
Yeah.
it last week or the week before when it came to?
I think it was a couple of weeks ago, didn't it? We spoke about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we spoke about trust, and we
Yeah.
and then we talked about how you wanted to track down actually someone we knew was targeting um, women, girls who you were a bit gullible, you know. Come hang out with me. I'll give you a VIP tour. You're chosen, and but I do want $700 or $800, you know. And by the way, if you're going to do a VIP tour with me, then let's add this, that, and the other to it, and yeah. And then when you try to expose them, that's when the problems is.
Yeah. True. Yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
Not a good experience.
No. And people need to know that, you know, whenever people do something, is in the end it all makes us stronger. But before it makes you stronger, if you don't have the right tools, I mean, how many people actually said, bye, this life is not for me because they got bullied?
Mm.
You know, life was easier without being bullied. And people don't understand this. There was this group a while ago, and sometimes I post it on Facebook. I'm really bad when it comes to coming up with names on the spot, as you may have noticed. It happened a few times already during this live. Um, but it was about this girl Amanda who was bullied too. And I'm not sure what happened. I think it had to do with nude pictures from her boyfriend. And then they broke up, and then he posted them. And she actually tried to kill herself. I'm not going to say how.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's been on a program as well.
Yeah,
That was actually put into a film.
yeah. So I'm not going to say
Yeah.
it because I don't want to bring people on the wrong ideas. I don't want to give them the wrong ideas. Um, but when I was looking at that show, and on this huge screen, it was shown on the background, and she had these cards, and she showed what was written on those cards. She wrote who she was and what happened and what was going to happen, and that made quite an impression on me just looking at that. And I mean, what's going on in the world that people need to attract attention by writing things down on cards, putting it in front of the camera, and
Mm.
then putting them down? Is that the way of speaking out nowadays?
I know. Don't make sense, does it? Just talk. You don't need to write it out. Just talk. Say it.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I don't know. I think it's just obviously somebody started doing it, and it's just gone like a trend, and
Yeah.
everybody just started doing it. You know, so it's like, oh, a bit chilly.
Yeah.
But
You want to find a blanket?
I just want to find my scarf.
Yeah. So I need to give a little bit of information about Joe. So a lot of people probably know that Joe suffered very badly from corona. Even though you've been vaccinated and you had your booster shot, you did catch it really badly, which is probably the result of being so severely traumatized that you're only sleeping like 3 hours a night if you're in luck. And then when the deep sleep starts, when you start to dream,
Mm,
when you start getting nightmares,
yeah,
boom, and you're awake. And probably sweaty panic attack. Um,
yeah, plenty of those. Yeah.
yeah. So for some reason, I get clients, and I'm not saying Joe's client, but I do have clients who also have panic attacks. So when Joe told me about it, I was like, "Oh, do you have this, that, and the other?" Well, you did.
Yeah.
Oh, you have
I think you know everything about me now. You probably know more about me than I know about myself.
Well, I do listen occasionally, not falling off. Oh, I'm seeing all these images. Gene Simmons said that about Mark St. John at some time. So back in the 1980s, they had this playing style on the guitar, and they would do this finger tapping, and it was about playing all these notes as fast as you could. That was basically what they were doing back then. And it was like, oh, this is like a buzzing bee. And then he made this sound like, okay, done with it. It was, you know, and that's, yeah. So, yeah, when it comes to perspective, um, yeah, that's probably what brought it on. And that's what I had to explain to you. And, and I'm going to take this a little bit further. So, when it comes to bullying and understanding why people do certain things, and we take it one step further, and we go to forgiveness and anger. So, of course, anger comes first. Forgiveness is not so much about forgiving the other person. And that's something I've learned along the years. Forgiveness is about letting go for yourself. So you
Yeah,
are no longer hurt by what's being done by someone else.
and you have to sort of make yourself not feel guilty or angry, because if you don't, then you're not going to accept forgiving anything else again, because you'll always have that part in you that it's like, well, like I did with my sister, I had to forgive myself for being so miserable, not being angry towards everybody.
So when do you want to share what happened to your sister? I know you
Yeah,
heard when you
um, she was murdered by her living boyfriend. She was 11 weeks pregnant as well. Um, he did things which was just awful, because when the court was about and they read out everything that what he did, it was just horrendous. Like, just even bare thinking about it, to be fair. And I think that's one of the things that made me angry, is what he did to her. He raped her, he bit her, he punched her. Her face was black and blue. They didn't recognise her face at first. They just couldn't. It was that bad, badly damaged. Um, he did so much other things. And then in the end, he strangled her, and that's obviously what killed her eventually. So she suffered all that pain beforehand, which was quite
and here's the thing.
severe.
It didn't start with that one time.
No,
You, as no other person, knows that
no.
all of us are good at hiding what's going on. And that's
Yeah,
why we
this
just
is what I was angry with myself, because I was like, why didn't I see the signs? But then I was like, well, when I went for it, I hid it.
yeah,
Nobody knew the signs. You do it in a way so good that you're very good at manipulating people, thinking, oh yeah, no, no. Or if someone will say, oh, you come out, oh no, I can't make it, you sort of, you get so good at it that you basically just hide
and
it from
of course
nobody.
that's what we're learning. And I would love
Mm,
to have Yuko Mama on here today. Maybe I should probably have asked her to come over. Um, so Yuko Mama, she grew up in Japan, and of
mm,
course she has had to learn to smile too, smile all the time. So when I heard the stories, and she wasn't the one who told me, I think, I'm not sure if it was my sister, because she has actually gone to Japan, or it was someone else. But at some point I heard the stories, and I don't know if you know these stories, but so you have the cosplay where people dress up,
mm.
of course, but usually that's more like idols, heroes, all that stuff. If correct, and I assume a lot of steampunk, all that stuff too.
Yeah, because my son does all that.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. But there's in Japan, they actually have like cats which you can cuddle for like an hour. You can have people who are dressed up as a bunny, and then they can hug one another. So, oh, here we go again. Don't.
Achoo,
I'm
achoo,
sticking my elbow.
achoo, achoo, achoo. We'll make a tune out of you soon.
But you see, I'm well conditioned doing it in my elbow.
You are glowing in the face. You're very red.
Am I?
Yeah, you must have a bit of temperature because you really are red.
Oh.
You're literally glowing. Don't give me them Jason eyes.
We always have a little bit of fun. So, okay, they're tiny again. For those who are wondering, these glasses are so strong that if I take them off, I only see this much. That's not much.
Wow.
Enough to actually look at the iPhone. So when I look at the iPhone, this is how much I actually see.
That's how my husband used to be. He used to have his phone literally like that.
Yeah.
There. Because he was blind in one eye.
Yeah.
Eventually.
It does have one advantage though.
He'd be like that, and I'd be like, "What are you dealing with?" Just reading, and you see his little eye move up and down as it used to make me laugh because even with his glasses on, he couldn't see. Like,
yeah. So today I don't know what I did with my glasses, but they weren't on the place where they were supposed to be. So they're probably on the floor. So what I do nowadays, long live the phone. I take the phone, I put it on the camera option, and then I look on the screen, and then, oh, there it is. That's how we
oh my god, that is so funny. That's hilarious. Oh my god. I've heard it all now.
That's my life. Welcome to my life. So, I don't know about your husband, but I don't often do it. But when I really have to, and I need to get a glass of water, and I'm not wearing my glasses for one reason or the other, I'll put my hand underneath the tap, and I'll put it a little bit, just a little bit across the top of the glass. And I can literally feel how filled up it is, but I can also hear it. So I basically hear like, oh, it's almost full. So a lot of things I'm doing on sound, probably because I was 10 before I even started getting glasses, because I was a good girl, because I understood teachers. I didn't understand the children in my class. So what did I do? I would sit in front of the class. Way easier. And then at some day, they decided to put me in the back of the class. And that's when I didn't see anything at all. That was a big problem. I had no clue what they were writing down. So, yeah, that's a little funny thing about being the one who's quiet and not speaking out, because I didn't have the courage to. But I guess that from an early age on, I learned adults are safe and those around me are not. Fortunately, it changed when I was about 16, 17 years old. I mentioned his name before. I probably don't think he'll ever see it, but if he does, his name is Jan Toen. And he helped me by saying, okay, what is it you want to do? Okay, you can do this, but remember, you have to do that later on too. Amazing. So he had me install those big floppy disks, the big ones, the 5.75 inch or 5.25 inch, back in the days when we were still initializing computers, not by use of the internet, because it wasn't still there.
No.
I'm going down memory lane today. Wow. So Yeah, but getting back to perspective, I love what the guy does, and I love what Terry said, and I think it's good that people become aware why people do certain things because that just makes it more understandable. But a lot of it lately, I heard it's the phrase "because I can." I'm not sure when I heard it the first time, but that's usually when people murderers or other people start doing things, it's because they can get away with it. And
Mm,
that's
yeah.
something. I mean, we're way too civilized, and that's why I was talking about cosplay and the people, dressed up in bunny suits, cuddling one another. It's crazy that at some point it's nice that you can have a dog for hire or a cat for hire for cuddling for an hour, but one can wonder how healthy that actually is.
Mm,
And being well behaved and being from two cultures, I've got a dual cultural background. Well, you sort of have too, of course. It's not as extreme as I have, but we concluded just recently that the English culture, the British culture, is so totally different from the Belgium or the Dutch culture in that matter. Dutch and Belgium are totally different too, by the way. The Belgian people are far more civilized than the Dutch ones are. We are pretty much straightforward, and Belgian people are far more polite and gentle. Not sure if you agree, but
so I froze there. I
yeah,
literally went offline
yeah,
for like 40 seconds. I don't know what happened there, but
yeah. Did
oh,
you hear?
I didn't hear what you said. I heard you talking about the bunny cuddling, and that was it.
Then you've been offline for a long time. So I was getting back into the perspective again and about people speaking out and what they are conditioned to do. So, I referenced the cosplay and
Mm.
where's the
Yeah, I
people
heard that bit. Yeah, where they dress up and
and all that stuff. And
yeah.
then I made reference to that, I've been brought up with two different, very different cultures. One of them being Dutch. Dutch people are very straightforward. And then there was the Asian part, the Indonesian part, which is
Mm.
anything but straightforward. And, it's smile. And in the meanwhile, there's something going on behind that smile. Don't believe the smile, and
Mm.
then learned from an early age on. My mom said, don't trust those people because, oh, that's a good way to raise your children, by the way. Um, but the funny thing is, we talked about it the other day too. And then we were talking about the difference between the British culture and the Belgium culture. So for a second, I made a comparison with the Belgium and the Dutch people, that they are more alike as opposed to the British people.
Yeah, yeah.
But then again, if you look at Belgian people, they are basically far more civilized. As in they are very polite. They are very kind. They're a bit soft compared to the Dutch people who are usually very
Mm.
and straightforward and give
Yeah.
it the way it is. So and you can basically tell it. So in English, there's of course always only the you. You applies to people with seniority and also without seniority. In the Netherlands, we have a difference. So when you are young, you say je. So you say je to a child. You say u to someone who's older than you. Of course, you have the same in German. That's du and see. You have it in French, tu et vous. We have it
Yeah.
in Spanish too, just not in the English language. And personally, I do appreciate that it's not in the English language. But in Belgium, there's always the u and the gij, where we always say je, and occasionally we say u. But if we know people, we drop down to the je. as in we know one another. And in Belgium, they still say u.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So and
Mm,
you know, so close to one another, and still such a big difference.
yeah,
And
definitely.
it's the same in the Netherlands. So we make this little joke about above and below the rivers. So I'm if you divide the Netherlands in half, so from east to west, west to east, then above, then you're already above the rivers, and then when you drop down a little bit below Rotterdam, so all those people know there's Amsterdam. If you go a little bit down, then you have The Hague, that's the area I live in, and then you go further down, and then you have Rotterdam. And then when you go even further down, that's where you have all those small sort of islands. Uh,
Mm,
and there's all those rivers, and they go from Belgium and Germany. They go straight into the North Ocean, the North Sea, and those people, we from above the rivers don't understand the people from below the rivers. Different expressions.
yeah,
Uh,
same as here. We've got, like me, where I am, the
mhm,
south, but the north is the languages, the accents are just totally different, and you cannot understand
mhm,
half of them. Especially if you go to Scotland, it's like, okay, because my grandfather,
yeah,
my grandfather, his dad was Scottish, so it was like proper hard Scottish, and it's like, okay. And I have friends as well, and after time I'm like, what, what, what? Same as Irish as well, because they've got
mhm,
such a strong accent. But
yeah,
in North over here, as I said, we've got so many different types of accents. We've got Liverpool accent, Mancunian accent, Welsh accent, and Essex accent, London accent. There's so many different accents in this country. It's mad. It's
yeah.
totally
What
different.
I always think is funny is their words like thing, and then the thing it still ends in the K at the end. I don't know which words, but there are some words, and they always end up like, why are you saying K at the end? It's so funny. And my former brother-in-law was Scottish, so and my sister, she's amazing when it comes to accent. She should have been an actor too.
Yeah, I mean, I can actually speak. I can actually do like a lot of the northern accents, so it's quite.
Yeah, we're listening. We're listening.
I come from Liverpool. See how the difference is. I come from Liverpool. I
Yeah,
come from Liverpool. It's not like I come from Liverpool. I come from Liverpool. It's totally different dialect,
yeah,
and like you got the southern, like, which is like near the coast, the south coast. Oh, I come by an harvester. Yeah, I come from here. I come from up there. Yeah, where do you come from? And it's like really totally different. All these accents are just. And then you got the basic Essex girl. We're from Essex, you know. Yeah, I come from Essex. Where do you come from? You come from London. Oh, right, yeah. Well, I come from Brentwood, you know. I'm an Essex girl. And that's how they talk. And it's like, what? What? Where the hell did that come from? Like, and it's just like, and you got the Birmingham. I come from Birmingham. Ah, yeah, I come from Birmingham. Where do you come from? London? Ah, no, I come from Birmingham. It's all these different, like,
yeah. It's low,
accents and.
and we've got them in the north too. So all the way up in the north, there's Friesland. They
Mm,
actually have their own words. So we say mom and dad is vader en moeder, and mom and pop. And in the north of the country, it's mem and heid.
mm. It's weird. It's like in Wales, they've got their own Welsh language, and it's like, yeah, whatever. And
Yeah,
same as Irish, they got the Gaelic.
Hmm.
language, which is quite a lot like French. Like it's the old French, the really old French, sort of
Yeah.
mixed in
What
Gaelic. It's very
I've
strong.
what I've noticed is in the north and in the south, and I don't know if that's the same what you're referring to. It's like a mixture of German and French and English and
Mm,
Dutch. And if you melt it together and you're used to all those languages, then you can sort of.
yeah, see, like, because I speak French, I can understand a lot of Dutch when people speak, like Flemish, because obviously when I was living in Belgium, I heard a lot of it. So I sort of got used to certain words and I'll be like, oh, I know what you said, but I can't speak it. Same as German. I understand a lot of people when they speak German. I can actually understand what they're saying to me, but I can't verbally say it back because I can't speak it. Same as Spanish. I can understand quite a bit of Spanish, but I cannot verbally speak it back. So I think once you get an inkling of learning different languages, you can pick up words very easy.
Yeah.
Like on my comments sometimes on my Jason page, there'll be like Latinos and all that. And when they'll speak, I can really sort of know what they're saying. It's
Hmm.
really weird. I think you get so used to it.
Yeah, especially French and Spanish are a lot of like.
Yeah. And I think you just sort of learn and pick up other languages quite quick. It's
Yeah.
really weird.
Yeah, I agree. It's of course a
Uh,
language
yeah.
which is at the base of it. But here's the thing, and I know a lot of people they are good at listening, hearing, picking up what people are saying. I'm the
Yeah.
opposite. So I have trouble perceiving what people are saying, especially when it's in a foreign language.
Mm.
Um, but when it comes to answering, it's like there are all these things just going on in my mind. It's literally like when you have a computer program and you look at RoboCop. The first time I saw RoboCop and you saw all those instructions,
Transcript. Yeah.
yeah, on the screen. That's the way my mind works usually. So
That's
there,
pretty good though.
yeah, but the problem is it's not the way I hear things because I don't get it back in instructions. So
No.
So I can read a menu, I can make sense of it, I can actually express what it is I want, even though sometimes I only know minimum amount of word. But then when I come back, especially when it goes like, say again, okay, can you please do it a little bit slower? And that's, and a lot of times when I go abroad with friends, I'll look at them like, okay, what are they saying? And they translate for me in Dutch, they're saying or in English, whatever it is they're speaking. And then
Got a
I get,
visitor. You have a visitor. My baby.
yeah.
Mm.
So, and then I will look at the person and I will actually give an answer because I can give an answer. Just don't ask me what they're responding back.
No. No, see that I'm totally opposite. I can literally sit down and listen to people in foreign language talk and I could really get the gist of the conversation and what they're talking about. And it's like, but I just cannot verbally answer back. I'll be like, well, I understood, but that's about it. Don't get me to talk apart from French. I understand a lot of Italian because obviously I've got Italian on my mum's side. So I understand a lot of Italian as well. My mum, she's got such a concoction in her blood. She's got Italian, Belgium,
Yeah.
French. I'm
Um,
like, okay. It's like
mm,
my dad, but obviously I did my dad's DNA
mm,
and we got all the results back. He's, what was it? 55% British, then 25% American, 10% Swedish and Canadian. Where the hell did that come from? And I'm thinking, oh my God, because he's always had this inkling when he was young that his dad was not his dad. His dad used to beat him a lot and bully him, and none of the others. And we found out later on in life, because my granddad had an affair with this nurse, and they had a baby together, a girl, and it all happened during the war. And she wrote books about everything what happened and when she met him, everything. And so I've got the books, right? There's about 40 of them, and she writes everything in it about everything they got up to, like, and like my dad was mentioned in it when, but
You're frozen. It gets spicy and you are frozen. So we have a little fun thing. So don't be spooked by what I'm doing. She's going to get
can
it.
you hear me? It started freezing again.
Yeah, you froze. So,
Yeah.
it's a
I've
little.
got where was I? I was
Um,
talking about my dad, wasn't I?
nice bit that she wrote all these books, like 40 of them, and your dad was in there, and then
Mm.
you froze.
Yeah. Yeah, she wrote these books, and obviously we've read some of it, and I'll tell you, it'd make a really interesting love story from the war. But when my granddad come back, my nan was near the end of her pregnancy, so it was always, obviously, she must have had an affair with a soldier or something along the lines. Um, my dad's always believed, because in the book, it's in there about my nan being pregnant when my granddad come home, but he'd been away so and so, because she was pregnant with a little girl from my granddad, and apparently it was an American soldier that she'd had an affair with, but he obviously hated my dad for it, because, as I said, he used to always beat my dad, and I mean beat him. He was terrible. He was really, really used him as a punch bag. And then when my dad was about 16, that's when he had the last straw, and he said, "You ever lay a finger on me," he said, "I will lay you out."
Yeah.
And obviously it stopped then. He didn't ever do it once more, because the last time he'd hurt my dad was he punched him so hard in the head that my dad actually had a fit, collapsed on the floor and everything. And
Wow.
like body was shaking and things like that. And then that was the last straw. That's when my dad was like, "No, never again. You're never going to touch me again."
And
And
I'm
he
going.
obviously took it out on my dad, you know.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second, so hold on to this, please. Um, Something that came to mind because we're talking about courage and about speaking out. What I've noticed is, and you of course shared a little something about your sister. Um, for some reason, when it runs in the family and it happens to one parent, it usually goes to one or multiple kids as well.
Mm,
And that's why
yeah,
it's very important to speak out about it. Say you're not supposed to accept this kind of behavior. And I'm so glad that you actually teach your children that they are not, they should be proud of who they are.
yeah, yeah. I've always taught my children that,
Yeah.
always
Okay.
have done.
So go back. He
He
can
had
he
the courage, eventually got the courage, yeah, to stand up to him, saying, "No, you're not touching me no more. You beat me from God knows what age he remembers, you know." And he never did. All his brothers and sisters, they never did. Just him all the time. And obviously, years and years and years later, my granddad actually said to him, "I've got something to tell you." And my dad was like, "What's that?" I think I was born, I was only little. He went, "What's that?" He went, "You know I'm not your father." And my dad said, I gathered that. He said, "Why? Why did you gather?" He said, "Because you beat me and you never beat the others."
yeah,
He said, "So because of what my mum done, you took it out on me.
yeah,
Your hate was taken out on me so much. And that's why you beat me, because you
Yeah,
couldn't handle the fact that you were coming home, and yet he had an affair with a nurse and had a daughter.
yeah, exactly.
Because I remember when I was little, I used to go to my nan and granddad. My nan always, I always thought she had dementia or something.
Yeah,
Like when I look back, but now I know why. She used to stand there. She always used to say to me, she went, I hate that nurse. I hate that nurse. I really don't like that nurse, what she did. And obviously, this nurse she was talking about was the one that had an affair with my granddad, and that's why my nana had an affair. She got her own back.
yeah,
It's like all sort of, and it was all written. It's all written. This book is just. I'll tell you. I said to my dad, I said we should get it published. I said that would make a good wartime movie. That would even be good in a movie because it was really
yeah.
like intense, you know, from the war and obviously what went on, because it did go on a lot with soldiers
Mm.
going away, women getting
My,
pregnant. That's why a lot of children in the 40s were born with English and American soldiers, because where the American soldiers come on towards the end of the war, they
yeah,
stationed a
they
lot
were
in England.
alone. They were alone, and they needed some company, and
Yeah.
they often were left
So,
alone. So
mm,
it's not like they forced themselves on others because
no, no, it's just attention, and then the women,
yeah,
and that's why so many kids were born to American soldiers, and people never knew, you know, who they were, who their fathers were, or, you know, and
yeah.
it's like my dad, you know.
Yeah, it's the same when you talk about Indonesia. I mean, a lot of Dutch people went there. I've got a French great grandfather. I've got a Portuguese great grandmother. There's far more Dutch in me than there's Indonesian in me. You just don't see it, because a lot of Dutch people went there, on their travels. The
Yeah.
being that, well, what they all had in common was all those people, all those men who went there to work, they were lonely. Their wives were at home, they were in the Netherlands, and they were lonely. So they were looking for local women, to have a little bit of fun with it. Uh,
Mm,
so my grandma actually sheltered my mom from having that happen. But in the process, she beat her, senseless. And so my grandma was apparently someone, she was a hard worker. She was very smart. But of course, a lot of on her mind. And she had to do the honorable thing. So she got divorced twice and married 3 times. And my mom, just like what you said about your dad, was the result of well, the marriage was supposed to, the kid was supposed to reconcile them. Of course, it didn't happen.
mm.
She got blamed for it, and that's when you look back generations, you see the big difference between siblings and how they were treated.
Mhm. Oh God, I mean, years ago, you could beat your kids. They never did anything about it. They used to get
Yeah,
beaten. It's
yeah,
terrible.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And it's like, oh my God, you know, why would you do that? Like, women got abused and the police didn't do nothing. They were just like, well, you know, you married them, deal with it. You know what I mean? Abuse like that, everything went on. And it's
yeah,
only recent years that things are now become more, you can get protection now when you're abused and things. But years ago, back in our parents' times, like, look at the young girls having babies. They used to send them off into a
yeah,
home, give birth, sell the kid off. And I was like, how could you do that to your child? And that's your grandchild. Why would you send your child off, give birth, and get rid of that child of theirs? And that's your grandchild. Why would you do that?
yeah.
I couldn't even think of it. It's like Ellen coming home at 14, 15. Oh, by the way, mum, I'm pregnant, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't say, right, well, that's it. You're going to have an abortion, or you're going to have the baby and you're going to get rid of it. And what's that? I couldn't even think of doing that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't even think of that, wouldn't have even
And
entered my head.
then we go back to appearance, what we were talking about
Mm,
before in the various countries, and basically we get back to the beginning of what we were talking about. The people in Russia wanting to speak up, demonstrating, and they basically all get picked up from the streets and thrown in jail. Why? Because that's an embarrassment. We don't want to know the foreigners to know what's going on. So it's, and then we talk about censorship. And when we talk about girls becoming pregnant, basically that's censorship too. It's like.
And not only that, a lot of that, you know what's going to happen to a lot of them kids? They're going to be used as sex slaves.
Yeah.
They're going to be sold to countries.
Yeah. And I remember when I was a guest on someone else's show, and we were talking about finding the mission in your life. So being at Epiphany, being happy. And I said, yeah. And then it was said, when you know your passion, you can't get depressed. And then I said, well, I don't know, but if you live in Hong Kong, I bet you can get depressed when you no longer have the freedom to speak your mind. Or think about the women in Afghanistan. Of course, that background, but not too long ago, we were talking about them and how, they finally get experienced like 20 years of freedom. Am I saying this correctly? Yeah, I think I am. And then of course they took over again, and it's like, yeah, you are in trouble. You can't work anymore. You can't drive your car anymore. You have to hide your hair. You have to hide your face. And when you hear the stories of those people and what they actually experience inside the house, it's horrible. And also when you read certain Bibles, and I'm not talking about the Catholic Bibles at all, and how to treat the men versus how to treat the women. And that's why we all need to speak out. Because if back then it hadn't been hush hush what happened to the girls, but people would have honestly spoken about it, then things would have been different, because girls would know what was going to cause pregnancy, and they would know what a pregnancy would mean, and they would be far more careful instead of being beaten down and
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting topic we have today, I have to say.
Good mix.
Yeah, and you're even awake too.
I know, I'm surprised actually, because I do feel tired.
Yeah,
But yeah,
there you are. Well,
still
you
look really
have some
pale.
amazing stories. Yeah.
Sorry.
You
Yeah,
have
we have some good
amazing
stories.
stories. Yeah,
Yeah.
you always do. I love your stories. They're not always the funny stories, but you've got some great stories to share. That's for certain. And it's only through speaking out and sharing
Yeah,
that we get to change the next generation.
it's true.
Yeah. And then it comes back to courage, because do we have the courage to tell people, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? My mom, she was always, always, always afraid for repercussions, and to the extreme. It was weird how she was. There's this expression of living in a golden cage of fear. I don't know if have ever heard of that expression, living in a golden cage.
Mm.
But basically, it looks good because it's gold, but when you really look at it, you're still in a cage. And um, and that's basically what my mom was doing. She lived in that golden cage of fear, as in, oh my God, don't do this because this is going to happen. So what I do is, when I have a problem with someone or I want to know something, then I'll go up there and I'll ask and I'll talk about it. And of course, I've had my fair share of times when I was angry and upset, especially when I was in pain because of my ankle. And I've been a beep, to say, um, back in those days, because I couldn't stand it to walk like one step more than I needed to because I was so much in pain. And if someone would, park in my parking spot, well, they would know it. They would know it because I would be furious. Which of course was all related to pain. And nowadays I'm nothing more compared to that. So I do know that when I'm in a lot of pain or when I'm hungry, I'm the one who gets angry. I will get very annoyed, and that's knowing oneself. So I've learned to reflect on that, and people, especially the ones who know me very well, they usually know long before me when I need to start eating. It's so very funny. So yeah. So getting back to courage to reflect, and courage to actually speak out. Um, I think we only need almost 2 hours live.
Mm,
Now, I realize I did most of the talking, so I do apologize for that.
okay.
um, she will tell me off if needed, by the way. Not sure if you can, but
Bad girl.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure you would do it, and that's the way it works. Um, yeah, so I believe it's good that we went through this, this whole enchilada of we talked about bullying, cyberbullying. We talked about what's going on now between Ukraine and Russia and other countries. Um, we talked about what happened back in the days. We even touched upon what happens with girls, the human trafficking. We talked about cuddling people in bunny suits. We talked about what happened during the World War and lonely people and very exciting books which need to be published.
Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
love for you to read it, but you probably wouldn't understand the writing.
Oh, well, we had to read Old English too, when we were at school. So you might be surprised.
My telly is really spazzing out at the moment. I don't know what's going on in here.
Well, just give it like 3 more minutes and then we're over and done with this live.
Weird.
Yeah. You think it's your mom
Oh,
hunting?
no, sorry, it's me. I was sitting on the control.
Ah,
My
rational,
bottom was moving the control.
rational explanation. Seemed such a good story. Go.
How do you turn your TV over? By my butt.
Well, I do believe that this is a good ending to what we've been talking about because it does show when it comes to perspective that there are almost always two sides of every story of why people do certain things they do.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've been taught that way, or because they've been born a certain way, because they've never encountered anything differently, having to do with culture and all that stuff. And yeah. And do you have anything to add to this?
Just to get your courage, learn to speak out more. Don't let people get to you in a way that it puts you back, that you don't want to speak out, that you're afraid to speak out, which I've learned in the last few days, thanks to you.
You're welcome.
When people put you down like that, I now realise that they have issues going on, and their way of making it better for them is to put somebody else down. So it gives them a boost of their confidence to make them feel good. But in the long run, it's not, because someone as vulnerable as I was at the time it wasn't very pleasant to receive that, you know. And as you know, it did reflect on me, and it hurt me, and it played on my mind. I don't know why, but it really did. And that's when I said to you, that's it, enough is enough. I am not going to put up with any more of that.
Yeah, it did make sense to me. But then people don't know, of course, what happened to you. But we know that you recently went to counseling, to deal with your own traumas. And
Yeah.
people don't realize is when you're exposed to therapy, um, you start reliving certain things and things
Mm,
you've been putting away and putting off. Suddenly, all those emotions they come flooding, and you're like, oh my god, what am I going to do with this? And I've talked to a lot of fellow therapists about this. Like, okay, you can say you have a 50-minute therapy session, but what if the lid comes off? Are you really going to say, yeah, 15 minutes are up, bye?
mm,
Let people, and I had people coming over here because they had been to the therapist for some sort of trauma. They things were exposed and they had to wait like for another 1 or 2 weeks before they could go on. And they say, okay, come over and we get to talk on about it, and they would calm down again. But that's something to consider. Like, okay, and that's why I tell people you don't want to wait until you can't go on anymore. So
mm,
what I is, I give people a voice so they don't turn inward, hurting themselves and in the long run harming others. And this, of course, has to do with if we talk about Pandora's box. And I'll never forget that when I heard that expression for the first time. You can sit on a treasure chest. In this case, it's not a treasure chest, it's not filled with treasure, it's Pandora's box. And Pandora's box is hiding all those things you don't want to know about, all those bad things, bad memories, ghosts, all those things, that haunt you. And at
mm,
the point, Pandora's box says, I'm not going to close anymore. And then it opens wide open. And what are you going to do then? Are you going to numb yourself? Are you going to scream? Are you going to lash out? And that's the whole thing. And people who've had a burnout, they'll probably know this because burnout is basically you're giving something of yourself and giving, 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 not receiving, giving, 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 working too many hours, usually interacting with people, whether it's as a nurse or a teacher or whatever it is. And then at some point, you can't handle it anymore because you're too tired. And
mm,
then when the emotions come and you can't handle yourself anymore because those boundaries are gone, that's when screaming starts. And I know it all too well because I've had multiple burnouts. But the first one was the hardest one, which at some point resulted in me not being able to read anymore. And I was like, oh my God, I've gotten back to before I went to elementary school. That was weird, I could tell you. So I can't just keep going. I was supposed to be tired. Here's the thing, once I get talking, then I usually get energized.
I'm the one that's tired. It's unusual for me. I don't normally get tired. But
Well, you
it's your
feel,
voice. I
yeah.
told you it's your voice.
For those who don't know this, uh, I'm actually, I have a way with words. I sometimes do like these meditations, and I have recorded one for you and told you to listen to it. But ever since, you are actually starting to relax when you hear my voice. Yeah, it is. So, and that's a good thing. It's the way. It's certain rhythm. It's a certain uh,
Mm,
volume. There's a lot involved, and that's why I love doing meditations with people and seeing if I can relax them. So it's, yeah. Okay. I want to thank everyone for who has been watching. If you've heard anything and you want to talk about it, you can reach out to me. I don't know if they can reach out to you, Joe, but they can always reach
Yeah.
out to me. Um, Also, don't forget there are hotlines wherever you are in which country. There are always SOS hotlines you can call. You need to look them up, Google them, and don't be afraid to share your story, especially when it comes to strangers and when we're talking about hotlines. Usually there's a stranger on the other side, and they know about it because otherwise they wouldn't be the one picking up the phone. But also, don't mind speaking to me. I know also other people. And so just reach out. And if you want to share your story, you're always welcome here. So I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reach out. Yeah. There's always ways of getting help,
Yeah.
especially nowadays with the internet and everything. There's so much about you can do now, which is good in a way because years ago you never had that. All you had was a phone box, and that was it. At least now you've got ways of reaching out to people.
Yeah. I actually have a little mini course. I'll put in the link when I've published this video. It's chikaracc.com. Chikara is this logo. It means strength, and it says start to speak out now. So yeah. So for anyone who wants to know more about it, just reach out to me. I like to do little lives, short lives. I don't know what short is actually. Uh, Joe probably laugh about it too.
Yeah. What's a short life for you? Oh, 2 hours. Okay. What's a long life? 5 hours. Okay.
I've never done five, 3.
Not yet. I'm sure there will be a time. I'm sure there will be a time.
Well, I'll honestly say I hadn't expected that I would last this long today, and because
No,
of
you've
my
done pretty good considering you're not well with COVID, so you've done really well.
well, what a lot of people don't know is that usually my head is a lot worse, and not due to COVID. So I've been battling with this head and it being clogged for most of my life. So I know what to do and how to deal with it. So, but yeah, for those who need it and are thinking about it, reach out to us, reach out to hotlines, reach out to your friends, family members, strangers, and you'd be surprised. There is help for you. So
Yep.
don't that you don't have to do anything rash. Don't think you're all alone in this world. You're not. And people are going to miss you once you decide to say, okay, bye bye. So don't do it. We love you all. And
Yep.
we'll see you again next week.
Take
And
care, everybody.
no more. Start to Speak Out Now is going to be on my website for you and for you to enjoy. And hopefully, we'll see you again next week or in between on the IG Lives.
Bye. Bye.